The clock struck 1 o'clock and Mother Nature was bored as usual, so she called, and this time she called a lady in her mid-20s. The lady woke up in a frenzy, her eyes adjusting from darkness to light, her mind shifting from gloom to mood, her consciousness drifting from dream to reality. It took about a second for her brain to boot up, then another second for it to interpret the message her tummy was passing. She had to visit the toilet. She had to do it fast or else that part is better left unimagined. Frantically, she rose from her bed, grabbed a tissue paper and dashed to the toilet. She made it just seconds before the boil eruption took place. She didn't even have time to bolt the door or switch on the lights. She just took off her wrapper, slid down her pants and let out an explosion of one waist. The clock ticked 1:02 and as fate would have it, nature called again. Straight from his sleep, the man replied. This time it was his bladder that needed attention. He had to urinate. Still caught in the web of sleep and reality, he made his way to the toilet. In the rented apartment where they live, they had a simple rule. If no one is in the toilet, the door should be kept slightly open to signify that it is vacant. The reverse of that rule is common sense, one that even children know. It simply says that if you are using the toilet, then you shut the door. The clock ticked 1:04 and by that time, the man had reached the toilet. He unzipped his trousers right before entering. He even brought out his small black hawk while he was walking. After all, it was midnight and the darkness was thick. Besides, he was just as sound as a man who was sound asleep. The door of the toilet was wide open, so he just surged forward and let out a jet of hot urine. Then there was a scream. Frightened and surprised, the man felt for the wall, searching desperately for the light switch. He found it and turned on the light, his eyes beholding the naked beauty he had just urinated on. Shame piled upon shame, leading to even more shame. Seconds passed, but it felt like an eternity as the victims of circumstance stood motionless, speechless, and clueless. The lady was completely naked. Stark naked would be a better statement. She had taken off her wrapper and her panties were rolled down to her feet. A bra, which could have been a form of defense against the prying eyes of the man, was never an option for her at night. In essence, all the treasures of her body were out there for two little eyes to explore. The man was not totally naked, but it felt like he was, for the only thing that truly defined his nakedness, the suddenly big hawk, was dangling about like a broken pendulum in the sight of the lady. They felt ashamed just as they felt enraged. The man was infuriated. He wondered why the lady didn't bolt the door. How come she didn't hear his footsteps? And why in the world would someone pass a scooter without switching on the light? As for the lady, she was so annoyed that she could not even put her anger into words. What kind of man urinates on a woman? What happened to his sense of smell? And why did it later turn on the light to reveal her naked body? They were angry. In fact, that is an understatement. But they were also ashamed, and shame as a way of making people humble. It lowers their heads so that they can't even raise their voices even when it is the only thing they want to do. That was the situation that midnight. They stood there transfixed for seconds without doing anything, let alone saying anything. It takes less than 5 minutes for disaster to be complete. For the clock ticked 1:05 and the man eventually left without saying a word. What was there to say? Sorry? No, that wouldn't change anything. It would only make things worse. A line had been crossed and in place of it, another had been drawn. They would see each other in the morning without being able to look at each other, let alone talk to each other. Whenever they saw each other, they would remember that day. They would hate each other. They might never forgive each other. But why? Why so much hate and anger for something far beyond their control? They were just victims of circumstance. But here they were. The man blamed the lady while the lady blamed the man. Maybe one day they will realize that it was not their fault but the fault of nature. Maybe one day we would all realize that. But the dilemma is that blaming nature is like blaming everything and nothing. We should be aware that when nature calls, man must reply. No man can cheat nature. He would only end up cheating himself, for we are all a part of nature.